Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Charlie. Thanks to all of you for being here today, of course. I'm very honored and flattered to be here at this event, to say the least, especially when I see Richard Sheridan speaking this afternoon. He's much better. Trust me, stick around. It's a very good list you have here, and I'm honored to be on it. My talk will probably be the lowest tech talk of the day. No slides, no nothing. All I'm going to talk to you about are two very simple concepts: fear and passion. I'm going to explain in the next 15 minutes why one of these is better than the other, okay? You guys all follow me so far? It's very simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy at all, and I found this out the hard way when I joined the Cirque du Soleil troupe in March 1st of 2005. How did I do this? They picked me to write a book on them and embed me, if you will, with Cirque du Soleil for 6 months. I was in Montreal, Paris, and Las Vegas when my journalist friends, the real ones, were in Baghdad embedded. Trust me, if you have the choice between the two, take Montreal, Paris, and Las Vegas. It worked out much better for me that way. But when she gave me this job, she said, not only are you going to write the book with us and you get free access to the entire company, we are going to throw you in. And I say, what does that mean? She said, everything the acrobats do, you're going to do. And I say, what does that mean? She says, you'll see. Fantastic. So it's February 1st, 2005. I've got 1 month to get ready for this thing. I'm 15 pounds overweight. I know that. I've got a month to get some kind of shape. If you want to motivate yourself to lose 15 pounds in 1 month, I have 2 words for you: spandex and videotape. If you know you'll be wearing a full-length spandex suit and being videotaped every afternoon at 3 o'clock, trust me, you will start running, and I did. I lost 15 pounds in a month. It probably wasn't healthy, but I had to do it. I get there. I interview people all day long. But every day at 3 o'clock, they have me do something crazy with the acrobats. It's trampoline at 30 or 40 feet. It is the German wheel where you spin around like crazy and you can break your fingers. It is the trapeze at 60 feet. And I was not good at any of these things. I was pretty bad, in fact. All right? But I had no real fear. I might be stupid, but I wasn't scared. Until I encountered the head molding. The head molding is something they do for all their acrobats. They put a rubber skull cap on your head. They lubricate it. Then they pour plaster of Paris down your head and face while you got 2 straws in your nose. You got 2 straws in your ears. You're basically Tommy the Pinball Wizard without the pinball talent, essentially. You are locked out, more or less, and you got to sit there for 30 minutes. And at first I figured, no big deal. I'm not scared of this. And they do this, by the way, to have a head molding of all their artists around the world for hats. If they need a new hat, they just size it in Montreal and ship it to Tokyo or Buenos Aires or Berlin. So I'm going to go ahead and do this thing. While it's happening at first, it feels kind of relaxing, kind of cool. But as it's going down my head, I realize this is bringing up an old fear from the back of my head that is rushing to the front of my mind. And that fear is getting a serious disease like ALS or Parkinson's, where you are, quote unquote, locked in, as they say in the medical terminology. That means you see the world, of course, you know what's going on, but you can't communicate. If you make your living speaking and writing, this is very scary to me, obviously. And this is obviously not a serious disease. This is just a silly head molding. But the fear is real, and it's very intense, and it comes right to the fore. And when it does, I start clutching the armrest like this. I start breathing shallowly. I'm getting pretty close to hyperventilating. And Renee, who's running the show here, she knows all the signs. She's seen Olympic athletes who can jump from pole to pole 60 feet in the air, no problem, freak out and tear this thing off and go running down the hallway. And that was pretty close to being me until she sees the signs. She just touches my hand. And she says, Jean, you will be okay. You will be fine. And right then I realized, she's right. This is silly. This is nothing. I'll be fine. And if I don't do it, I got to come back tomorrow anyway. So might as well get the damn thing done. And at that moment, I start finally to breathe correctly. When you are scared, your whole world circles down to just you. You are a 13-year-old adolescent, and all you can think about is yourself. All right? I was so tied up into my own world, I did not even notice I was breathing poorly. So I start breathing correctly. I realized at that point, hey, I can smell. I got 2 straws up my nose. I can smell. It may be plaster of Paris, but it's something. And then I realized, hey, I can hear. I'm getting farther and farther outside myself. And in the corner, I finally noticed this. I did not hear this before. There's a boombox in the corner, playing steel drums. That is the world's happiest instrument, all right? No one's ever upset playing the steel drums. You are on vacation. So I'm starting to feel better and better. I'm starting to actually enjoy the experience, and then I start listening like I never have before. And the reason I was listening like I never had before, because for the first time in my life, I could not talk. All right? Why do we not remember people's names? It's very simple. When you tell me your name, I'm so wrapped up into the cool thing I'm going to say next, I don't hear your name, it does not sink in, and I forget it. That's why we don't remember names, because we don't listen. Everybody in this room can remember a name. Trust me. You just have to stop your brain on everything else and listen to that person. That's it. So I'm listening like I never have before. And in just 3 or 4 minutes of aerobic listening, I can tell that Michelle is running the show. She's been around for 10 or 15 years. All right, Claudia is her assistant, been around for about 4 or 5 years. She's in charge. There's a great deal of affection and respect between these two. And you pick all this up just from a simple conversation when you're really listening. Then they tell a story to each other and to me partly that I will never, ever forget the rest of my life. It turns out the best lubrication you can use for this skull cap is a product called KY jelly. If you do not know what that is, I am not going to explain it here. Ask somebody who's laughing, he or she gets it, ask them. So KY jelly is what they use, and they go through so much of this stuff. They do about 10 or 20 head moldings a week. They got to get a lot of supply of KY jelly. They send their intern, Renee, who's 20 years old, who's not that worldly apparently. You see where this is headed, right? You see the train coming around the corner here. This is going to crash. They send her to get a box of 20 tubes of KY jelly. All she knows is she needs to go get a box of 20 tubes of lubrication. If you're a 20-year-old woman who's not very conversant in these matters, where do you go for a box of 20 tubes of lubrication? You go to the auto supply store. This could end badly. So she walks up to the parts counter, and Jacques is behind the counter there. He's got the lamb chops, the hairy forearms, the navel tattoo, all this stuff. And he does not see people like her very often at his counter. So she comes on up, a cute little French woman, a French-Canadian woman, and she says, she lists all the things that she needs, and she says that she needs a box of 20 tubes of KY jelly. Jacques looks around for the cameras. All right, who's up to this one? Sees nothing and says, excusez-moi, can you repeat that, please? And she says, yes, I need a box of 20 tubes of KY jelly. And he says, mademoiselle, we did not sell that here. I think you need to go to the drugstore. She said, oh, okay, sorry about that. And she starts walking away. But Jacques knows this is not going to happen again the rest of his life. This is a once-in-a-lifetime situation. So as she's walking out the door, he cannot resist. He says, mademoiselle, excusez-moi. She turns around, and he says, I do not know where you're going, but I would like to go too. And when that happened, Michelle starts cracking up, Claudia starts cracking up, I start cracking up, the plaster pair starts cracking up. That's not good, all right? When you're not supposed to laugh is when you laugh the most. We all know this, right? When you're at church, when you're at synagogue, whatever, you're in class, all right? I'm trying to repress the laughter. It is not working. I am going nuts with this. I can't recall laughing quite this hard in my entire life. As I'm doing this knot in the back of my head unties. This fear I've been carrying around for 10, 15, maybe 20 years gets dropped at that moment. What did I learn? Again, this is not serious. This is just a head molding. But if my worst fear came true, I could still smell cut grass, a barbecue, perfume, flowers. I could still smell. I could still hear steel drums, music. I love music. The great conversation of good friends. I could still hear stories. I could still hear jokes, and they would still be funny. Life would still be worth living. That is one hell of a discovery. All right, that got me big and deep. And man, you don't know how heavy those fears are, and we've all done this, until you drop them. Wow. It's like taking off bad shoes. Your feet feel so good. The rest of the week, I am on fire. All right, at the trapeze, at the German wheel, and so on, I am going nuts with this stuff. And my coaches are saying, Jean, what has happened to you? You've gotten so much better. You're still not very good, but you're so much better. And I explained, man, I just dropped my fear. Your fears are holding you back. We've all got them. If you run away from your fears, they're schoolyard bullies. They get bigger and stronger, all right, and they get tougher. All right, it does not work. You've got to go right at your bullies, right at your fears, and grab them and take care of business. If you don't do that, they will own you. If you do that, you will own them, and they get very small very quickly. Bullies aren't that tough. All right? Take that one with you on that one. That is fear. We've got to overcome that first, all right, and replace that with passion. You cannot get to passion until you get past fear. One of my passions, of course, one of my biggest passions is writing. It came to me in the middle of a night, believe it or not, out of nowhere between my sophomore and junior year in college. I came home from a party. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I've got no idea why I did this, but I pulled out my grandfather's Smith Corona electric typewriter and sat there and wrote for 2 hours. And before I knew it, I'd written 10 pages of a short story about kids playing basketball for no good reason. I've got no idea why I did this. I looked up at 4 o'clock. I went, holy mackerel, that's strange. All right, something very weird is happening here. Next week, same thing happens. The third week, at a same kind of party, I'm talking to a very attractive woman, and I'm in no position to take that for granted. All right? And while she's talking to me, all I can think about is the story I want to finish when I get home that night. And that's when it hit me. There is something very wrong with you. All right? It is called the writing bug. I had it. What can I do about it? So I took some classes, and my teacher, great guy David Rubin, took me out to a party after one of the classes. I didn't realize this at the time until I asked the guy where I put my coat. I went and got a beer. I look around and go, wow, there are a lot of old people here at this party. And then I realized, and of course they're my age now, you realize that. And then I realized this is the English department. They all got bow ties and turtlenecks. I'm an interloper with jeans and flannel shirts. I ask around, what's the party all about? It's all in honor of Al Young, a famous and highly respected writer. I said, who's Al Young? Of course, he was the guy at the door where I asked where I put my coat. All right, so I have screwed up pretty badly here. So I go up to him to apologize and say, Mr. Young, I had no idea. I'm an idiot. I had no idea what the party was for. And he says, you're looking for a party? You found a party. All right, the guy was totally cool about it, and not everyone is in that situation. Then I said, okay, as long as I got you here, all right, any advice for a would-be writer? And he said, only this. Don't want to write, need to write. And I said, what does that mean? He says, you think about that, son. So I thought about that my senior year when I kept writing. My first job at Culver Academy is coaching and teaching. I'm still writing. I'm in Princeton, New Jersey working. I'm still writing. I go back to Ann Arbor for a year to apply to law school. I'm still writing. I got into law school the night before classes began. I was not their first choice. And it hit me that this is what Al Young was talking about. You've always wanted to be a writer. You've never wanted to be a lawyer. What are you doing here? I picked up my books. I walked out. And 3 days later, I was on top of the Whitmore Lake press box, making $50 a game story for the Ann Arbor News, getting rained on, standing in the mud, talking to a high school coach, thinking to myself, my career will never suck more than it does right now, and I already love this. I have made the right decision. And on that point, thank you. You're the first group ever to clap for that, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate that. I, of course, did not tell my parents till 5 years, so I hope they see this tape. What do I love writing about most? College football. Why? We're back to passion. All right? Passion, because these athletes, those fans, are the most passionate I've ever seen. I've been to 35 countries, 6 continents. I've covered the Olympics and all this stuff. All right? The most passionate relationship between fans and players is college football, in my opinion. Why? Because there are a lot of problems with it. I wrote about that in Yahoo yesterday, about how to fix it. But the players are not paid. They don't ask for a new contract, renegotiate their salaries. They don't get traded. They don't ask to be traded. They don't go on strike. They don't get locked out. They don't cancel the season. All right? The love we feel for that is incredible. They all get paid the same, a scholarship. Talk to any NFL player, and they will all tell you their best years playing football, their favorite teams, were in college, almost always. All right? Despite the millions of bucks in the NFL, all right, that's what they loved the most, and that we see on the field. All right? Never did I see it more prominently than last year, 2012, when I'm writing the latest book on Penn State. On July 23rd, 2012, the NCAA gave them very serious sanctions, almost a death penalty, almost inviting everybody to leave. You had almost no reason to stay in state college at that point. Your scholarship's going to be reduced severely, no post-game playoffs, no postseason bowl games. The whole nation's going to crap on you even though you had nothing to do with it. All right? And in exchange, you can transfer anywhere you want for free with no penalty whatsoever. You've got every reason to leave and almost no reason to stay. If fear drives you, you are gone in 5 minutes. If fear drives you in that situation, you are gone. If passion drives you, you stay. The seniors, Mike Motti, Michael Zordich, the coaches, Bill O'Brien, they spent 1 week keeping their team together, and all they could sell them, the only product they had, was passion. That's it. If you love your teammates, if you love your coaches, if you love this program, love this university, then you should stay. They stayed. And the first 2 games, they got blown up. All right, 2 bad losses. They said are 0-2. Everyone says they're about to fall apart. They didn't fall apart. They got back together again. They win 5 out of the next 7 games. They set up a big game against Wisconsin that'll end their season. Wisconsin's already the division champs. The next week, they put 70 points on Nebraska in the Big Ten title game to go to their 3rd straight Rose Bowl. That is a serious team at that point. Penn State goes in there in their own building, all right, gets into overtime and wins on a field goal in overtime. After they won that game, knowing all the stuff they'd gone through, I'm there on the sidelines, I'm there in the locker room, these guys are running around like maniacs. They're hugging everybody, their teammates, their coaches, the fans, the students. Jordan Hill runs up into the stands over the fence to give his dad in a wheelchair a hug and say, "I love you." That's what I saw that night. When they came in the locker room afterwards, I've been in a lot of locker rooms, all right, coaching and reporting. I have seen better teams. I've seen better records than 8-4. I've never seen a greater team than that one. I've never seen a happier celebration in my life than what I saw that day. Equipment managers, students, players, coaches, staffers, hugging, crying, laughing, going nuts for an hour. It was incredible. When I talked to Michael Zordich about this afterwards, he said, what you saw was guys who love each other, who are passionate about their team, their fans, and that, by the way, when you're giving your all and the crowd gives you all this energy, you draw that energy from them and they draw their energy from you. And that, he said, is the greatest drug in the world. And that drug is passion. And according to U.S. law, you're allowed to take as much of that drug as you want. You can take all the passion you want. It is free for the asking. All you have to do is overcome your fears and pursue your passions with all your heart. And when you do that, and only when we do that, the greatest rewards of life are available to us with no one else in the way. They're just between us and passion. That is it. Everything you want is inside you right now if you got the guts to grab it. My advice to you is grab yours now. Get all you can. And good luck and thank you.